Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unfiltered Flow ELSC, the podcast dedicated to the progression of the fluid power and automation industries. I'm Megan Cook. That's Alan Burdett. And today we have Mr. John Joyce. John is the founder of Industrial Revenue. Hi, John.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Good. Oh,
Good to be
and
here.
John is a former U of A grad, which is super exciting for me since I sit in Northeast Ohio. So that's fun.
Go Akron Zips. Yeah. I'm so not a sports person, but I know it's the Akron Zips. Yeah.
So,
Glad to be here.
John, why don't you tell us how you got into the industry?
So I have a kind of a split background, kind of half tech, half marketing. Grew up in a family of my mom was creative, my dad was a computer guy, my mom was a musician. And because of that, I kind of ended up going into a mix of marketing and digital things right when everything converged and you ended up with the world as we know it of digital marketing and all the kind of tools and now AI and everything that goes into that. So from that background, I gravitated towards industrial marketing. The reason why being because it's interesting, right? It's not an impulse buy. Nobody sees an ad for like a hydraulic pump and just says, that's the coolest thing. I'm just going to go buy that right now. It's not that easy when people are buying things that they're putting in, things they're building, that they're trying to sell to somebody who, you have all these buying committees. That was a interesting problem to solve for me. So I've always gravitated to that. So I've gone through different iterations. I had an agency at one point in Akron. And then I worked for a company in Cleveland as a global marketing director for quite a while, an industrial firm. And then I split off again as a consultant. And recently I've kind of combined my love for technology and marketing and industrial solving problems for industrial companies into the current company, which is Industrial Revenue, where I'm really trying to focus on how to help companies in stalwart industries like the hydraulic industry differentiate and fight against commoditization when a hydraulic fitting or so many other pumps, valves, manifolds are in a commodity stage, right? How do you fight against that? So that's what I'm kind of doing right now, trying to help companies to rise above just the race to the bottom.
That's certainly something that's a hot topic in the industry right now. Really, everything that you just explained. So that's very interesting.
Good. I'm glad you find it interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, people are struggling with this, right? Like overseas production has created this false kind of sense of like dollar store. Literally had interviews with customers of customers that use the word dollar store when referring to products that my customers that other industrial manufacturers are trying to put on the market, right? So you have to fight against that mentality because just building a better widget, having a widget isn't good enough, and even building a better widget isn't good enough, and having great service isn't even good enough. There's the bar of what it takes to really stand out just keeps getting higher and higher.
It does.
So when a company is primarily concentrates on product specs instead of commercial infrastructure to sell its products, what does that mean for them, or where's it going to take them? What's the future hold for a company like that?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing is product specs are important, right? They're not less important now. Okay. It's just like they're not the only thing that matters anymore. It used to be kind of about specs and availability, and those things are still important, but it's just that you can't only focus on those things. You have to focus on operations. You have to focus on unique ways of presenting your product, combining products, expanding product lines, unique ways of expanding your manufacturing footprint, expanding your distribution footprint, ways to do business electronically that you may have never done before. Getting all those specs and all that myriad of details, usually into hundreds of thousands of line items with most of these industrial manufacturers, just getting that data in a row is actually a massive lift for most of them. It's just that you have to have all these pieces together now, and then you have to do it better than the other guy is doing it in order to truly stand out so that your product is okay. Product A and product B might have the exact same specs, to be completely honest, or extremely close specs are the ones that everybody talks about at least. So how do you differentiate if this one from China is half the price of this one you made, or this one you imported from China? Somehow they can sell it for less. The only way you can is all the other things that make up your commercial platform, how easy you are to do business with, how reliable you are, how consistent you are, how fast you are, how many things you carry. Can we consolidate vendors through our relationship with you? Can you do things ways other people won't, even down to how do you package your products? That's becoming a differentiator where it's like, we'll individually wrap each of these products with your barcode on it in a special plastic bag. If the other guy won't do that, that can be a differentiator for certain types of customers. So it's all that kind of stuff now that really has to happen. But the specs that you talked about, Alan, don't go away. They're actually just as important. In fact, you got to get them more in a row than you've ever had them before so that the customer doesn't need you to tell them. They can just pull them up from their app or
Right.
from some sort of interface.
And you talk about pulling them up from their app. Back in November, you put an article in your newsletter, so like a 2026 forecast. And you talk about something called marketing debt. How's that contributed to this phenomenon?
Yeah, well, it's a pretty big problem in, let's say, mid-size, small to mid-size industrial companies that and even enterprise level companies, honestly, but especially the smaller ones haven't kept up with all the things that you have to keep up with. So then it becomes hard to do business. You have a bigger lift, and that lift is what we call marketing debt. It's the same concept as technical debt. You're behind, and now you have a cascading issue where you want to update your website, but you can't update your website because your product information is all jacked up, and you have a variety of other issues that make it a super huge lift for you to do something that should be easy for you to do. Produce a brochure about this product. It should be easy for you to answer those questions, but it isn't always. And the lack of that infrastructure is just a huge source of marketing debt, which means you're just not able to produce marketing support pieces, answer customers' questions at scale, is what we're doing. All marketing is doing is what sales does one to one, marketing does one to many. You're answering the customer's questions at scale, right? What is this? How much is it? What does it look like? What are those specs? Can I get a CAD file for this? How fast can I get it? Who's going to sell it to me? Is it going to be you or this distributor over here? How many do you have on the shelf? You know, where are they in the world? These 100 items that you have in the shelf. Is there any in Akron, Ohio, so I can just walk over there and get it? Or get it one day, UPS ground. You know, all those are just answering questions, right? But in order to do that systematically, you have to have the kind of marketing systems that a lot of these companies haven't invested in. And so then when you go to turn it on, it's like, holy crap, this is actually a mountain of work. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's marketing debt.
Yeah.
And everything's changed so much too. We talk about it all the time. It's everybody wants everything at their fingertips. They want the answers now. And when it comes to quote unquote, excuse me, commodity items, you have, a couple minutes, I think, at best to be able to articulate what you have, what you can do, and how quickly somebody can get it. Otherwise, you lose them and they're on to the next supplier.
100%,
Period. Amen.
100%.
The
And that's
distributor.
short-sightedness on their part oftentimes, but it is in the end, if somebody doesn't have any other reason to pick somebody over another person, they'll bolt and right at that beginning phase, they're making those decisions like that.
And brand loyalty isn't what it used to be either. Whether that's just the pure relationship part of it and building those relationships, or if it is just I need something quick, fast, in a hurry. That whole dynamic has changed from even 10 years ago, John, with how people decide to buy today. And procurement as a whole, I think, has changed immensely in the past decade or two. So, the distributor black hole, what are companies missing about how pipeline and opportunities are actually getting lost that way, in addition to what you were just talking about here?
Yeah. So, a lot of companies go to market through distribution, and I'm not anti distribution by any means. I'm actually super pro distribution and really pro supporting your distribution channels in a exceptional way that other manufacturers won't do because that's your way of differentiating the same as on the distribution side, the same as the end user side. But what the distributor black hole is the fact that when that distributor gets in between you and the customer, right? There's a lot of things that don't transfer, that aren't guaranteed to transfer all the way from the manufacturer to the end user. And depending on the scale of that distributor and your relationship with them, in the best case scenarios, you partner together really well. The distributor might even call your sales team in on sales calls with them and do things like that. And that's beautiful when you have those kind of relationships. But when you have hundreds, thousands of distributors, there's a lot of that is not happening at scale, right? So you're counting on that distributor to be efficient. Just that, you know, nix out 80% of distributors, know your product, right? They don't know it. They don't know. They have, you know, 250 companies worth of product lines, not just your, even 100 product lines, right? So they don't know anything about your product really. And then the ones that know, they retire, and then they're replaced with college kids from the University of Akron who are really talented and very smart, but don't know anything about your product and hardly know anything about the industry, and you have no control over any of that. So then that's creating pipeline leaks. There's just no way around it, and it's very difficult to enforce. It's very difficult to enforce competency, right? How do you do that? But you do have to create systems for tracking performance, systems for training, systems for supporting, systems for handling leads. Where do the leads go? How many of them are acted on? Again, back to systems. This is my system side, and my software side always just comes into every discussion because it's a big part of who I am, but it goes often back to systems, processes. It could be computerized, it could not be. But the point is, if you're not doing that, if you're not supporting your channel strongly, and you're not having any form of accountability, then you have a huge, huge pipeline leak. Like money is just, rolling out and going down on the floor that you're missing because you can't make those distributors competent before your end users.
That's an excellent point. Everything that you just said there. And I think it is more so than ever right now rippling through manufacturing when it comes to distribution. The distribution game has changed so much. Acquisition and consolidation is a large part of that as well, John, right? And when you do have a multitude of products that you're trying to sell, maybe a handful of them are your primaries, right? Handful, two
Yeah,
handfuls are going to be your primaries
100%.
that your sales folks know and can sell adeptly. But if you get into more of that, a niche product, your hydrostats, anything like that, it's a completely different ball game. And I think that's where, having a very solid, tight distributor network, a smaller distributor network, I think, is where you're going to gain the most, especially if you're a smaller manufacturer in the game. Not the bigs as we all know them, but there's a lot of smaller manufacturers out there, and I think if you don't have a tight knit distributor network, all of that gets lost. And then you moved into ways to track and monitor the growth with those distributors and that sort of thing. That's another part. Smaller companies just don't have the bandwidth, John, to establish those processes internally.
Yeah.
So it creates you're right, you hemorrhage cash that way when you think about it from that perspective.
Yeah, if you're a smaller company, I mean, I would say you really need to focus on your direct to market strategy. Make sure you're doing that extremely well. You may pick up distribution through, you'll pick up distributors kind of backwards, like a channel pull through your end users. So, what I would say is you don't even worry about trying to competitively get distribution, but that you would worry about getting end users. Some of those end users will force you into their distributors because they'll say, well, I love this product and Bob's House of Hose, you should carry this thing so that I can buy it from you with all the other things that I buy. And then boom, now you've got a distributor, right? What ends up happening is the manufacturer just has to do everything. The distributor is just a remote warehouse for the manufacturer. And if you keep your expectations at that level and you go to war kind of with that kind of a strategy and you support your distributors, but I would say you probably don't really expect much from them. You're going to bring the customers in and they'll bring their distributor channel in with them. And you're probably going to have to do the selling and you're probably going to have the sales calls with the customer. If your distributor happens to get some other ones, that's fantastic. Then fan that flame. But I think if you can't go wrong by focusing on your direct to market strategy and then supporting a distribution when it gets lumped in. After you attain a certain size, you're really trying to pursue certain kinds of distribution relationships with large distributors who know that they own their piece of the market.
Yeah.
And the whole dynamic is completely upside down. Then at that point, it's a whole different ballgame. But you know, that happens eventually, but it's until then, you can't even get into those kind of manufacturers except from that pull, except from that customer walking in, or those three customers, or if you get that one really big customer who buys from XYZ distributor of fluid power components, then you'll get XYZ distributors attention. So the same strategy works even for the big distribution. You really have to get the end users, other OEMs, preferably.
Well, yeah, we see a lot of that. So you've gone through most of the distributor questions I was going to ask. So I'm going to go off sheet here for a second.
Okay.
I want to pitch your newsletter, the build and the banter. That's a great a little newsletter there. And there was a
Thanks.
piece in there, I think in the last one, don't yell at your engineers about CRM, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw
And
that.
one of the comments you made in there I thought was very apropos because we see people, at least people talk about collecting data just for the idea of collecting data and no other reason. And you mentioned that if your CRM requires a 60 slide training manual, then it's already broken. Given that, what would you describe as a CRM system that isn't broken?
So one of the ways that we're solving this problem is through, I don't know if you've noticed recently, but this made news with Salesforce that they have opened their entire API to MCP, which is the way AI talks to systems like Salesforce. And the kind of result of this is they're turning their system into a database effectively. Okay. So it takes the UI away and it's just a database. Okay. You can still log in. Managers can still log in and see reports. But now that you have more and more, and all of the CRMs are going to go this way, they all already have APIs, but they're just breaking down the barriers to how easy it is to just use their system as a point of record. Okay. What Salesforce realized is everybody hates our software. Everybody hates logging into this thing. Everybody hates using it. So, but we have all their data already, and that's worth money. And we want to keep that data. So maybe we lose the UI. They can use it if they want, but we make it a point of record where we have all their deals, all their customers, all their sales information, all their history is already in there, and we want them to keep using it. So how does that benefit you? So that allows you to do what we're doing, which is to create a middleware that can watch what your people are doing in their email and even on LinkedIn. You can connect it behind the scenes to both of those systems, see the messages they're sending, see who they're talking to, and log that information automatically into a system like Salesforce, and even help the sales rep agentically to answer questions or find data or write a proposal and enter that data into Salesforce or email it to a customer, all without them having to log into something. So it becomes that
That's
we
wild.
don't,
That's neat.
yeah. So it's like having an assistant who can see your email and you can interact with them, but they also can interact on your behalf. They can also just log things and enter things in on your behalf. And it's CRM agnostic. So you can use it with Salesforce today or HubSpot tomorrow, or not even use a CRM if you want to do it without the CRM. So I think the way more and more things are going to go is that the UI disappears. People don't want a UI. They don't want to log in. If you've ever tried to have a CRM implementation rollout, you realize adoption is like a massive hurdle. It's
Yeah,
all
we've
the
done that.
technical work. Yeah, all the technical work is hard. It's a lot of work trying to get those processes codified in Salesforce, but you build it and nobody wants to use it, right? So that's a massive hurdle. So we're trying to solve that hurdle using a combination of integration and AI that is able to kind of stand beside you and enter stuff in that you do automatically for you.
That's really wild. I'd like
Mhm.
to check back in on that later on. I mean,
Mhm.
eliminating user interface and having it basically just operate in the background and collect everything is
Yeah.
that's
That's a
Yep.
game changer in a multitude of ways.
Yeah. I hope so. I think it will be. We're doing alpha testing now, but I'm not sure exactly when it'll be ready, but I'm hoping that this year it will be coming to market. But yeah, we are using it with a few of our customers already.
Nice. Well, John, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, one easy way is LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you can just search for me on LinkedIn. You can also just email me. My email is john at Bridger, BRIJR.io. That's the technical wing of my organization. So john at Bridger.io, or just Google me on LinkedIn. Google me on LinkedIn. Is that possible? Look for me
Yeah.
on LinkedIn and connect, say hi, that's fine.
Hey, that's how we met. I love it. You know, the big part of this business, the fluid power business, is the people. And it's so interesting how LinkedIn connects you with like-minded people and things like that. It's pretty awesome that way.
Actually, the best thing about the fluid power business is the people, because you get a real down to earth crowd in fluid power. And I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. I'm saying that in a positive, like they're real normal people. In my experience, they're very good. Everybody I've ever worked with in this whole industry has been really pleasant. It's one of the things I like about fluid power. I'm sure you can relate if you know any number of fluid power people. They're all pretty cool.
We're 2 ex hydraulic people, so we
Yeah.
get it
Yep.
for
I'm
sure.
sure you do.
Yeah, we love the
Yeah.
industry, love the people. We've made a lot of good friends throughout too, people that you meet working with or at shows, and they end up becoming, really good friends at the end of
Yeah,
the day, which is awesome.
it is. Yeah. It's a cool group.
Well, hey, John, we appreciate your time. It was awesome, getting to know you on here, so I'm
Yeah.
sure
No
we'll be in
problem.
thanks.
touch.
Yeah. It's been great getting to know you guys too. And I've appreciated being asked. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'll see you out there in LinkedIn land, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sure.
as you roll this product out, sure would like to get an update later on.
Yeah,
We'll
Sounds
do.
that'd be
amazing.
awesome. Bring you
We'll
back
do.
on and see how things are going.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great.
Thanks, John. Have a good
Yep.
rest
Thank you.
of the week.
You too, guys.
Bye.